Do you want your bra strap to show?
No,
okay,
I'm
just
trying
push
to
it out.
Oh, down. I'm gonna just push it.
Yeah, just push it out. Don't pull the shirt in. That's weird. Stop it. Let me give me some clavicle.
I don't have any, honey. My
No,
titties have been
clavicle's up here,
breastfed.
friend.
There's
Hey,
no.
hey,
Oh,
this is
here.
your
Yes. Oh,
clavicle,
sorry.
not
Sorry.
your- I didn't ask for your titties.
Okay, listen. I'm here. I'm awake. I know words. What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
It's Melanie.
And Cody here, and you've tapped into
The Mama's Den. Hey, mamas.
Hi.
How are we feeling?
Tired, coincidentally.
Tired.
Tired. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Today, we have the perfect episode for all the tired mamas out there.
We really do. Okay, before we even introduce our guest, and yes, Ashley, I just took it because we're just moving.
It's fine.
Before we even introduce our guest, who thematically is tied to our exhaustion, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Cody. I have 3 kids. I have 6-year-old twins and an 8-year-old, and all boys. And everyone slept in the bed last night. Carry on.
Okay, I am Ashley Chia. I have 4 daughters: 16-year-old, 8-year-old, 7-year-old, 3-year-old.
Wow.
Damn.
This is an ongoing joke. I'm Melanie. I have 2 children, a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. So a 9-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. And this conversation is needed because I'm happy to introduce our very special guest in the Mama's Den today. We have a baby whisperer in the den, guys. Legitimately, you've heard the term baby whisperer. We have one, a professionally certified baby whisperer. She has over 20 years of experience helping families adjust to life with a newborn as a postpartum doula, lactation consultant, and pediatric sleep specialist. She is the founder of The Cradle Company, a pregnancy and postpartum resource agency. And she is also the host of the Dear Doula podcast and a mom of 3. Y'all make some noise for Brandi Jordan.
Hey.
Lovely lady in red.
Yes.
Wait,
Thank you so
we
much
have
for having me.
Of
course.
Thanks for being here. I love this red lip. Okay, so pretty. But we have so many questions. But before we dig in about the babies, just tell us a little bit more about yourself. And how did you get started?
I'm condensing how I can make this a small story, but basically, I was home from college back in the day when we still listened to talk radio, and they talked about this old-timey career called midwifery. I was just like, what is this? I've never heard of it. I was like 19 years old. I'm from Houston, so I was in Houston. H-Town represent.
Texas girl over there.
Okay. And I was like, what is it? So I cold called a birth center in Houston. I was like 19 years old. And for whatever reason, they were crazy enough to let me come and train with them. And so back then, there wasn't even a word for doula. It wasn't a doula back then. You were a birth assistant. So I did this training, but I was like, who's going to hire a 19-year-old? So I kind of put it behind my head, came to Los Angeles for school, moved next door to, at the time, which was the Hollywood Birth Center. By accident, on purpose, I don't know. And they were like, oh, you want to be a doula? I was like, what is that? Took the training. This is now my 25th year working with families as a doula, as a sleep consultant, just because I heard something on NPR 25 years ago.
Talk about a
amazing.
calling.
Wow.
That's amazing.
At 19?
I was 19, yeah.
Wow. Most 19-year-olds are terrified of the idea of birth.
I loved babies. I was in the room when my sister had my nephew because my sisters are older than me. They're 10 and 12 years older. And I was 16. It was amazing. And I just loved babies. But I kind of also felt like it was a hobby, which I was told you couldn't make money doing this. It's just a hobby. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it for fun. The first year I did it, I was doing it all the time. I didn't charge people because I had been told you can't make money at this. It's a hobby. And eventually I was working full time. My mom was like, I think you probably should charge people. This sounds like a business.
Thank you, Mom.
Good job, Mom.
Good job,
Good
Mom.
job.
I think you're working for free, baby.
Yeah, she's like, I think this is real. I think you actually can make money from this. And here I am 25 years later.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
so listen here. They have 3-year-olds, right?
Yes.
I have 6-year-olds, and on up, right? Let's start with newborns because, we've all been there. And I also, one of my big questions for you that kind of leads into this is, maybe what mistakes we may have made in the newborn phase that have led to where we all are now. But I'm curious, what are top 3 rules for newborn sleep?
Well, first, I would like to say there's no mistakes.
Okay.
I
Praise God.
knew that you were going to say that.
I'm
Thank goodness.
glad.
I was hoping you would say that.
right.
But I feel like everyone does what they need to do when they're in the trenches. And so most people do what feels intuitive and feels natural, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. Most of the regret and guilt that people feel about sleep or where their kids are is because you're kind of putting yourself against this barometer of what should be happening. And all of us should be doing something different, probably because we were raised differently. We have different, ideas about sleep. We have different sleep patterns ourselves. And so there is no mistakes. But there are things that you can do differently in the beginning if you really want to have long-term sleep. I'm a pretty routine person, so is my husband. So for us, it was important to have some kind of flexible routine. I think I was saying earlier before we started rolling, one of the things that I wish that we could start thinking about is laying healthy sleep foundation versus sleep training.
Okay.
My goal is to talk to people when they're pregnant, when they have a newborn, so that you can avoid some of the things going to require you at, say, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to actually have to do like traditional sleep training.
Yeah. I like that word, sleep foundation.
Yeah, like healthy foundation. Like we
Yeah.
all need it. Sleep is a learned skill.
Yeah.
Which is like, we all know adults. You guys might be some of those adults who don't sleep well.
Me. Never sleep.
While yawning.
I went to
So-
bed at 3 a.m. I just can't fall asleep. It's bad.
It's a learned skill.
Yeah.
And, it's something that with time, just like muscle memory, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So simple things like having a routine. Now, that routine can look different for everyone else, but it's having some things that you do all the time. And so what I'll have my clients that have newborns is, well, I say when you come up from the hospital, you're probably going to be more exhausted than when you went in. And so that first couple days, week is really about pouring into the family, doing what you can to survive. If you are nursing your baby, obviously it's going to be a lot about getting the breastfeeding down, being able to get that to a point where you feel really competent and knowledgeable about it and you feel like your baby's doing really well. Now, once those things have been conquered, we can start talking about what would it look like to have a flexible routine. Is there like every day at 6 p.m. when I decide to do my feeding, we do a bath time or something like that starts to create this foundation of like what your baby can experience. Like I have 3 kids, they're all very different personalities, but they were all sleeping through the night by 8 weeks. And I hate telling people that because and it's not because I was doing like, any kind of sorcery. They were all exclusively breastfed in the beginning through to about almost 2 years. And so it's not about what they were eating. It's really about that routine in the beginning. So if I could tell you 3 things to do with your newborn, it would be to set an actual bedtime. Even if they're still getting up and feeding every 2 to 3 hours, just have that be part of your routine, whatever that is for you. So that, okay, every day at 7 p.m., it's our dinner time. We're going to feed the baby, feed ourselves, do a bath time. If you have a partner, get your partner involved in this so it doesn't end up being just one parent on bedtime duty, which you will regret later if you have a 2-year-old. And then little by little, that starts to be a routine that you all can depend on, which for yourself, it feels good because you can depend on like, I know I can have dinner at this time. I know we can watch a movie as a couple at this time.
Yeah.
Once you have that down, the other thing that I do is I believe in doing dream feeds. Have you guys ever heard of that, like a dream feed?
Like feeding the baby while they're still asleep, right?
Yeah, they're kind of sleepy. It's like a sleepy feeding. And so when you have a newborn, most likely they're going to be getting up every 2 to 3 hours to do their feedings. As opposed to just letting them wake up and feeding on demand, I recommend that you actually do it like 10 minutes before they would normally wake up. So if they eat at like 10, 1, and 4, I would do a feeding at like 9:45, 12:45. And there's a couple of reasons why you do that. You cut that connection to eating and sleeping because some children start to use that as like, I need to go breastfeed or I need to have a bottle to get myself back to sleep. If you're the one presenting the food, it kind of doesn't help you. It doesn't create that connection between sleeping and eating. The other thing is it becomes easy to actually start to extend their time when they are, where you're kind of molding it and not kind of waiting for them to wake up. And so what happens is over time, it's like, oh, that time was 2 o'clock, now it's 2:30, now it's 2:45. And slowly you're able to make that transition in a way that's great for your baby, good for yourself, because if you're still nursing, you probably yourself can go long periods of time, but you work up to it over time and it becomes a very gentle way to do it.
So I feel like we're told when we have newborns, right? Like, let them sleep. Like you don't wake a sleeping baby. So what's that line between like dream feeding and waking them up?
So when I'm thinking about dream feeding, we're talking about in the middle of the night. And so if you are nursing a baby, even if they're bottle fed, they have to get up every 2 to 3 hours. So the rule is 8 or more feedings in 24 hours for a newborn, regardless of how you're feeding them. So no matter what, they have to be woken up at nighttime. Now, what you want to do over time, by the time you get to that 2-week mark, and this is the other part that's so important, at 2 weeks is when your doctor, pediatrician, whoever is going to be looking for your baby to be back to their birth weight. And so that first 2 weeks is about getting nursing down, making sure they're feeding and everything's going well, so when you go to the doctor and they're going to weigh them and say, okay, baby's back to birth weight or they're beyond that, great. At that point, you're going to ask your pediatrician, how long can babies sleep? They will usually tell you at that point they can go 1 4 to 6 hour stretch in a 24-hour period. So that is when you will start this, okay, let's let them go. And it'll be easier because you establish this kind of like bedtime feeding, nighttime, you have a little rhythm. And so it becomes easier to then make that stretch.
Okay. And so then the third thing?
And so the third thing beyond the dream feeds is to make sure that you're doing a really good feeding. When I see clients newborn, 5 months, 8 months, about 75% of those issues that I'm seeing is because of the feeding. They're actually snacking and not really doing a real feeding. And that's hard because you're tired. It's the middle of the night. You're just like, just do whatever you want. I'm going back to bed.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening, though, is you do this little snack, and then they're ready to snack an hour later.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I had to do, because it was kryptonite for me, is I actually had to sit up in my bed. I could not do the sideline.
I was about to ask.
Because I would wake up like 4 hours later, like, what are we doing? Are you still eating? What's going on?
Fall asleep.
And then they'd be just doing it over and over throughout the night because I was just too tired to be aware. And so one of the things I started having my husband do is like, okay, wake me up so I can actually sit up and really do a good feeding. So I always say, check, check, check again. So I check, burp, change a diaper, go back on because it's cozy, it's warm, they get really sleepy, you get sleepy. And so you just want to make sure you have a really good feeding because it's going to make it easier for you to actually see what is a sleepy cue, what is a hunger cue, et cetera.
That's so hard in it because I'm just sitting here thinking about like being in the midst of it,
Yep.
you know, and like I breastfed all of my children as well till they were about like 15, 16 months. And it's just like, well, the first one I stopped like the day before her birthday because I was over it. And I was like, you getting off my titty, damn it. But I just feel like with the last three, they did not really use bottles at all. So it was just like, I was sleeping. I was definitely doing the side sleep, fall asleep, wake up like, how is my titty still in your mouth, child? And it's been like 5 hours, but they were just like gnawing on it. But I can tell you right now that my children aren't the best sleepers. The middle two
You said aren't or are?
are not.
Okay.
No, to this day, they still like get up in the middle of the night. I have tried so many like different routines. So that's what I was going to ask you. Do you specify like just with babies, or are there tips that you could have to like help that even with like 8-year-olds or 9-year-olds? Is there a way to like, if you weren't the greatest sleep trainer in the beginning or sleep foundationer,
sleep foundation.
are there tools or tricks you could give now that you feel like could work even for like an 8 or 6-year-old?
Yes. Okay. So funny note, I sleep trained my husband when we were dating.
Girl, what other kind of training can we do? We train men too. Train up a man. No.
So I was like, look, I can't have somebody who can't sleep. He was a light sleeper. Every little noise, he'd be like, I'm up all night. I was like, you're not going to be able to make it
Child, my
if
husband
you
can sleep
can't
through
sleep.
a tornado.
Same.
And so we got a white noise machine. I was doing all these things with him, and he's still a lighter sleeper, but he can manage to continue to sleep beyond
Better.
the noise. It's like before us having kids and stuff.
Okay.
And so it's never too late is what I'm trying to say.
That's what I needed to know, child. Okay.
So, but for older children, I want people to understand, because I do sleep training with older kids. When you're talking over 3, over 5, we're probably more so talking about behavioral modification than sleep. It's no longer a sleep issue. Because they know how to sleep. Like, they're old enough.
Yes.
You know, so usually it's limit setting. And so I'm usually working with clients on like a lot of limit setting. Like, what are the boundaries? Because sometimes I can do this and sometimes I can't. For a kid, that means sometimes I can. Always.
Oh, okay. Got
So you
it.
know what though? We have a very almost strict schedule. Like we
I feel
eat.
like Ashley's family is very regimented.
We are, but my children, even when they were babies, the 2 middles have always been terrible sleepers. And you know what? Actually, the second one was great until I put the third one in the room with her, and they still share a room. And I think one of them is disrupting the other one, but I just can never tell who it is. But like they do not sleep through the night.
What do they do when they get up?
They just come like, well, first of all, we put them in bed at 7:30, and
Nice
they
bedtime.
keep getting up. Like, so sometimes when they realistically fall asleep, sometimes it's 9:30. Like, now me and my husband are like, you are going back to your room, but it's a lot of go back to your room, go back to your room, go back to your room, go back to, like, it's just repetitive. My foot hurts, my head hurts. Oh,
the
I'm
negotiations.
ailed. Something's ailed me.
Yeah.
And it's like, go. And eventually I feel like they really probably sleep from like good sleep, maybe 10 to like 6:30 a.m. and they're up. And it's like my third child, I'm like, you are not getting enough sleep. There's no way. She always is
she is
moody
not.
Judy. But she won't sleep through the night. Like, I don't know
So
what
a
I'm
couple
doing wrong.
things. So some children need a lot of downtime to be able to bring themselves down from the day, like we do, whether it's TV, reading a book. And so a lot of times what happens in families is that, like, it's the after school rush. It's like you're getting food, we're doing the thing, you're doing your homework, and like this is rush to bedtime, and that's when they're then having their wind down. Is when you put them to sleep.
Okay.
Is there a standard wind down time?
It's
or-
usually about an hour for most
Okay.
people. And so
Okay.
either you can create that before bedtime and that like, okay, all the screens go off. If there's TV on, like we like to do music during dinner time, that goes
We do
off.
too. Okay.
You know, there just becomes this like, they can like start reading a book or doing something. For some people, it might mean moving your bedtime down an hour because it doesn't really make a difference if they're up anyway.
That was going to
Okay.
be my question. That when she's saying that we tell them to go to bed at 7:30, but they don't really fall asleep till like 9:30. That's why I'm like, is there a middle ground to saying, well, like, listen, we don't want to fight through it. Y'all go to sleep at 9 or 8:30, and we cut out this 2 hours of doing
Yeah.
this dance because I'm sure like the back and forth and the up and down is also like it doesn't even allow them to wind down
Yeah.
because they're constantly fighting the thing.
Yeah,
and
and
then
it's
you're
an energy
fighting
for
them.
everyone.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
it becomes this like, oh, it's a bedtime battle. And so parents aren't looking forward to it. Kids kind of see it as a game because they like
Yeah.
it when we're annoyed. And so
Girl, I ain't letting go of that 7:30 bedtime, but what I will do is I started being like Cody and having dinner a little bit earlier because I do realize we were doing dinner at like 6:30, so it's literally
Yeah.
like eat, shower, go to sleep, and there's
Exactly.
no like you to your
how old
point.
is your youngest one?
She's 3,
And how old is your oldest?
16.
Okay.
Now the 16-year-old will sleep.
Yeah,
Now she gonna
my
sleep.
18-year-old has no problem
Yeah,
sleeping.
yeah.
So.
So she don't want to get up. That's the problem. The 3-year-old, we don't want to talk about that because she get up and get in my bed every night.
7:30 is
but I don't
appropriate
stop
for a
her.
3-year-old. And you know, and also when you have kids at different ages,
gonna
you
talk
do
about it.
have to play around with those as well because you're over 3. And what's the next?
So
age?
it's 16, 8, 7, 3.
okay.
And the last 3 go to bed at the same time.
Okay.
I put them all in the bed at the same time. I also homeschool my kids, so they got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I've seen them enough.
yeah, you've been with them all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, goodbye.
Same.
But I have been trying, and I wanted to ask you about this because I'll just look on Instagram. So I've been trying different things. I moved up our dinner time, and I saw someone else post about they do an earlier dinner. Then after dinner, they let their kids go outside and play for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes to like get some of that end of
Yeah.
the day energy out. Then they come in the house, shower, and have like 30 minutes to 45 minutes of just quiet time. Then they go to sleep.
What do they do? Lay
They're
down?
just reading.
Reading.
okay.
Reading.
Yeah, it depends on the children. Like some kids need to like get that frenetic energy out, and so running around. Like I would tell them before you get to dinner, take them to the park and run them up and down the
before
slide
dinner.
1,000
Before
times.
dinner, yeah.
Okay.
Like for me, once we're in the house, we're not going back out. Like personally, for me.
Okay. That's
But
good to know.
it's an okay for someone who doesn't mind doing that if you want to put them in the backyard. But we're kind of like when we're in, we're in.
Yeah.
And so for my youngest, who's now 7,
Okay.
for him, he has a lot of energy, and so we probably don't get back from the park until like 5:30, 5:45.
What
but
time
they've
you
had-
going to the park?
I have the same question.
They're probably going around 4:15 each day,
Oh my God.
And did you say coming back when?
like 5:30. So they're spending
can
an
you
hour
map
running
out
around.
your
I hate
7-year-old's
the park.
evening routine? Is that too invasive?
So no, so they're playing with their friends. I mean, so they are really getting tired out at that park for like an hour, hour and a half, Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
basically.
Every day you go to the park.
Yeah, every single day.
You was a good mama,
Four,
honey.
4:15 to 5:30.
Yeah,
How
so
old are
somewhere
the
like
other
that. So my kids are 7, 9, and 18.
And the 7 and 9 you're out at the park for
Yeah.
like an hour.
Okay, both of them. Got it.
So they are exhausted, which also means they're hungry. So we have less like, I don't want to eat and the this and the that. They're hungry. So they come home. We usually, for us, it's like all the stuff goes off. I don't want the school germs coming
We're
in the
the same,
house. We're doing the
yes.
whole thing. So they will usually shower beforehand. And so
Okay.
they're showering before dinner. They're having dinner. Usually they might have a little bit of homework that we have to do. And then from there, they're just having quiet time. Like you can read your book. You can play
What time-
together in
what
your
time
room.
was dinner?
So dinner is usually around 6:30.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
They're probably done about 7:15, depending on the time, depending if they've showered before or after. So let's say from 7:30 to 8, because their bedtime will shift anywhere from 8 to 8:30.
Okay.
Depending on how much we want to be done with them.
yeah.
How they acted that day.
Yeah. So we need our time is 8. If they're
Yeah.
doing their own thing in their room and it's quiet, it's 8:30. And that's been a recent thing. So they were going to bed at 8. And now
Okay.
they're solidly at that 8 to 8:30.
Okay, that's not bad.
And so like they read, they play with each other, they do the things.
Do they share a room?
They share a room. Our little ones share a room, and I think it's actually great for kids to share a room. They
Okay.
actually end up being better sleepers because you have to deal with someone else in your space.
that's smart.
Fair.
Okay,
And so I
that's
know a
good.
lot of
Okay.
parents are like, I want to keep them apart. And like usually what happens is you protect the good sleeper, and the other one keeps being a bad sleeper. Is what ends up happening. You're like, I gotta pull him out before he makes a noise.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to wake up so and so.
Yeah.
And it usually just reinforces them being a bad sleeper because we're not actually allowing them to work it out. So
Yeah.
they go to bed at 8:30. Sometimes my 7-year-old will come out and like, I need water, I need the thing, but we have it like an assembly line. Like your water is there, your thing is there. Like there's no reason for you to come out of this room.
Yeah.
The nightlight is here, the white noise is there. Like they pretty much will do it because they've done it also since they were newborns.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't changed that much.
Now, what time are they waking up?
They get up between 7 and 7:30.
Oh, that's great.
That is great.
No, I could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And they went to bed at 8:30, getting up 7:30. Okay, I have to just jump in here because I really need some of your thoughts. I'm very excited and nervous. Okay, so I have 2 6-year-olds, and number
That's
one,
a lot.
they go, girl, isn't it? And they're full of energy. They're good sleepers. I think I can say that, but then you'll hear the catch in a minute. So they go to sleep at 6:30.
6:30?
Which that's the reaction.
Still light outside.
That I get. It sure is. And they kind of always have. They've always been. They just went to sleep very early and easily.
And let me normalize that as a normal time. Basically, anytime after 6 p.m. for most families, or some range between 6 and 8:30 is where most people want to be if they have school-age children.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And I believe
6:30.
that age is supposed to be getting like up to 12 hours a night.
Yeah, like 11 to 13 would be great.
And the thing is, no matter what time they go to sleep, they're up at 6:30, which is why I'm like, well, I'm not gonna let them stay up later, so they're still in my face in the morning.
No.
So they go to sleep at 6:30 pretty easily. So my first question is, we always read to them and then lay with them. We, for a brief period, we could read to them and then say like bye, but if we lay with them for 15 minutes, they'll pass out. Like they'll go to sleep.
Love it.
So number one is, that's okay? Like, are we doing
I'm
too much?
so happy you're asking this question. Do you like doing it?
Yeah, especially because it's quick. It's quick.
Then it's okay.
It's better for you to just lay with them for that 15 minutes versus them coming in and out of the room.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
And also if it doesn't stress you out, right? Like
Yeah.
if
The
it's
thing is,
not-
like, some people don't want that. Some people just
don't
like,
want- yeah,
I'm
I'm gonna be done with
done.
you.
I'm doing a countdown.
That's my
I
husband.
can't
Yeah.
spend even 2 more minutes. And so for them, it wouldn't work. And we'd want to start teaching them how to fall asleep on their own.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy it and you like it, it's your family thing. Like
Yeah.
everyone should have their own
family thing,
your family manifesto when it comes to sleep. Like for us, it's like bedtime is non-negotiable and getting up before 7 a.m. is non-negotiable.
girl.
That's where I'd like to get
that's
to.
our manifesto.
Why are
you
you
can be
here?
up, you just can't talk to us.
So
do your own thing.
Here's the gotcha. Okay. They are good sleepers. They can go to sleep at 6:30 and get up at 6:30 or whatever. 6 sometimes.
12 hours. Great.
Now we did the potty training pants and all that, so they would stay through the night, But once those came off, it became important sometimes if they wake up to go pee and then go back to bed. Sometimes they go pee and go back to bed. Sometimes they go pee and go straight to me and lay down. Usually not quietly, which is why it's a problem. But my point is, they get up, pee, and come in my bed. Now I do love the snuggles. Like it's good when it's good, and it's bad when it's bad. Because I also have 3 kids, and so sometimes it's like one is there, we good. Another one comes an hour later. Clearly, I'm not good because now I've woken up twice. Another one comes, and now not only have I woken up 3 times, I'm hot. I can't move my leg, and usually one is going, "Mommy, move over. Why is he in my spot?" It's a lot. It's a lot in the wee hours of the night.
Where's Tommy? Did he just get out the bed and go sleep
He
somewhere else?
is asleep.
He's sleeping through all of
Sleeping through all of it.
Of course.
Right
they're
there.
Not, they're not asking him. It's you.
They're not even, no. And then they're like, "I don't want to go over there." I'm like, "Go by your dad." They're like, "I don't want to. I want to lay by you."
But when you talk about it, there's a twinkle. Like, there's a coziness when you talk about
love
it.
it. Sleep therapist.
You love it, so it's part of it. Like it's never about the sleep. Like I tell people, we're either healing something from our own childhood, healing something we didn't get, or something. Like it's not just about the sleep. And so
I told you that.
I feel so red
I
right now.
am just laughing because I'm glad you're saying the same thing that I said. Because every time she talk, I'm like, "Girl, you like it? Stop playing."
So
I
you're
like it until I don't. I think
yeah.
that's the
So but you
issue.
have to
Okay.
choose.
I have to choose.
You can't have
Heard
it both
you.
ways. Unfortunately, for kids, like they don't know gray area. It's like either I can do this sometime. It can't be sometimes yes, sometimes no. They only understand like sometimes means yes.
Yeah.
They're 6, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it'll end
It's
soon.
cozy.
Girl,
Like, I did
Brooke
it
still
off and on
sleeps
with
in
my
the bed.
parents
Not
since
all
like
the
9.
time.
One of them is
Yeah.
going to get tired of it and not have enough room.
So okay, so then this leads me to the question that I think everybody wonders at some point as a parent: the cry it out method versus the co-sleeping method versus like obviously what works, but like if they're 3 months, if they're 3 years old, if they're 6 years old, what is your philosophy on like I want to come in your bed. Like, for example, my daughter's 3. Her top Yelp rating is sleeps through the night. Okay, top 10 out of 10 stars. Because my first child, we used to have to do the hand and the slow back out, don't breathe as you're leaving. And to this day, he wants to cuddle to go to sleep. She's like, good night, close the door, get out. But we did go through a period right before she turned 3, all of a sudden, where she was. Oh, I mean, they knew. I called. I was like, guys, something is going on. Like, I don't know what to do. I haven't slept properly in 3 weeks. Like, she's up and it's violent screaming in the middle of the night. Now, mind you, thankfully, we've gotten over that. But there are nights where she'll wake up in the night and be like, I want to come cuddle in your bed. And so there's this two-sided thing where she doesn't ask for it often. Most times she doesn't. So when she does, it's like, do we ignore the call in the middle of the night because all we know is her sleeping through the night, and just be like, hey, I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time ignoring her cry in the night because she doesn't do it often. And so when she does, I want to be there. And like, we have a couch in her room, so I will even sit with her, rub her back. My number one goal is to not take her out of the room if I can avoid it. But then sometimes I'm just so tired, and I'm just like, girl, if you're not going to be a hurricane, come sleep in the bed with us, right? So we can all go back to bed. So I don't, what is your philosophy on that? Because
I think everything has a time and place.
Okay.
And so if I had a child like my own who mostly sleeps through the night, if they get up, there's usually something going on. And so I wouldn't ignore and wake up and my kid's like covered in vomit or something. I was just like, I ignored you last night. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so if it's like that, I definitely would go see what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a chronic, like getting up all the time, you may have to start being like, I'm going to wait this out and see what happens. Do like a little bit of a pause.
Yes.
And the situation of like, when they're waking up, it's also for you. Like, do you want your child to end up sleeping in your bed? Because it is a slippery slope. And it could be that one time that they got really afraid, or you were in a hotel, and like, as long as you get back to like, okay, the next night, this is not a thing, you're going to be fine. But it's also knowing your child. Some kids are going to just more likely be like, okay, I want to start doing this all the time.
Yes.
You have a 3-year-old. It hasn't happened often. I'm probably going to say you're probably safe for the here and there sleeping, in mommy's bed.
Right.
But like you said, what I would be doing is trying most cases to keep in the room.
Yeah.
And not moving to your bedroom. So it doesn't create this. Like, you wake up, I'm here for you. I'm attending to you. We are maintaining our attachment to each other. But you can still do that in your space.
Because kids, and correct me if I'm wrong in your experience, like, and I would love to even know even more, like, what are what are some of the issues that babies and toddlers or children experience at night, why they would wake up, right? And then I think sometimes as parents, we don't know if it's like, are they just trying to see who's going to win this battle right now? Because kids sometimes, and I've seen it with my kids, it's like, it's a battle of the wills. It's like, who is going to break first? I can break my parents, or we're like over them. They're like, I gotta hold strong. I can see her on the camera. Nothing is wrong. She's just fighting, right? So it's like, what are some of those issues that you have identified in your experience as things that why a child would wake up, or how much of it is like a fight for dominance, basically?
Well, particularly because you mentioned that this happened right before turning 3.
Yes.
A lot of that's going to be about big feelings and figuring out what I can do, what can I do, and it's a lot of limit setting, which I say it always changes around 3. That a lot of my work becomes more about limit setting than them learning how to fall asleep or learning how to stay asleep. It's really about like, what can I do? What are the rules here? But also at that age is what the time we talked about is called magical thinking. That's when you start thinking there's a boogeyman or there's something under your bed, and so they start having nightmares and things like this, and it's very normal. It's usually then when kids actually get more into having a lovey, like a blanket or a nightlight, somewhere between 2 and 3 years old. And so if you're seeing this happen around that time, it is a time where you're going to lean in a little bit more. Maybe you're going to sleep next to them for a couple of days. But I always say, if it's happening more than 3 or 4 days, you now have a new pattern. It's no longer a crisis that happened one night.
Right.
And so if it happens once and you haven't seen it again, like 6 months later it happens, again, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. And so for that age group, you want to be thinking about those things that could be happening. For infants, we're thinking about, like, obviously there's feeding. There are things like ear aches. Between 8 and 10 months, we have the peak of separation anxiety. And so they just want to see you, and they want to make sure that you're still there.
Right.
One of the things that we look at when we're talking about babies, when I talk about sleep, is like somewhere between 9 and 12 months, they get this thing that's called object permanence. And it's this idea that I know because you went behind that door that you still exist. they don't have that until after 9 months. And so that's why it's so important. We think about like what is good sleep training, what's bad, is we have to maintain that attachment. They don't know that because you left, you haven't completely left the universe and you're never coming back.
Wow, this is deep.
Right? And a way that you can figure out if your kid has that is by paying peekaboo. If you put something behind your back and they go to look for it, you know they have object permanence. If they're just like, okay, it doesn't exist anymore, you know they don't have it.
Wow.
And so when they don't have it, we do have to be more mindful of how we're leaning in, how we're making sure they know like there's boundaries, but also your parents are always going to be here if you need something. Do you know what I mean?
So you said what I wanted to ask you about was sleeping with you or co-sleeping. What are your thoughts on that? Because like you read a lot of research where there's like all this stuff on Instagram where they're like co-sleeping until your child is 7 is great. It's healthy. Some people are like, obviously, you know, when you have a baby, they tell you not to because you could roll over on them. I sleep trained my first daughter and I did the cried out method and I hated it. It was just so terrible. But she was my first child. I had her at 24. I was trying to hit every marker, you know what I mean? Every time the doctor was like, so I'm doing it exactly at this month, every vaccine, everything like da-da-da-da. She's also my smartest as of now child that I have. And she's a great sleeper. She is a great sleeper. But my baby, that girl been in my bed since she's been born. And the 3-year-old still was in my bed last night. That's probably why I don't sleep well either, is because but I kind of let her come in my room almost every night. I honestly don't care, other than the fact that like I don't fall asleep until the moment she's coming into the room, because I just have never slept good. My mom was like, you have been this way your entire life. You're a horrible sleeper. Do you feel like is it bad or good or like what are your thoughts on co-sleeping?
There's nothing bad about co-sleeping.
Okay.
Most countries in the entire world, most co-sleep. And so that's not an issue. Now, what I will say is y'all be taking a lot of things. People take a lot of stuff here in the States. So a lot of y'all should not be sleeping with no children in your bed because you have on whatever you're taking.
Oh, I see.
So
I got
a lot
it.
of substances in the U.S.
Okay,
So
not
I'm
y'all,
like,
the mama's den. She meant y'all.
Right.
She meant y'all.
She wasn't talking about
not
us.
y'all three.
She's clean as a whistle.
I'm saying, so I work with a lot of families. You
Okay,
hear a lot
got
of
you.
stories. You know what people are doing,
Like melatonin, night gummies.
They doing all the
Gummies.
things.
Okay, got it.
So in that case, like it's probably not the best to be co-sleeping. With that being said, is co-sleeping bad? No, people have co-sleep for thousands of years. It's how we do it is more of the question. What I'm hearing is, again, it's something that you don't mind. It doesn't bother you. You don't mind having your child in the bed with you. And so it's fine for you.
Yeah.
What I say for people is when it becomes an issue where like husband and wife are fighting about it, they don't get along, people are angry.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I ask when I do a sleep consult is like, when people last had sex, it tells me a lot about what's happening.
Yeah, we do the
sleep.
sex before the sleep, so then we don't have to worry about
Well,
it.
a lot of people their kid is not sleeping and they don't want to fix it because they don't want to come back together as a couple. And so it gives one parent a buffer to be like, I wish I could, but I got to deal with this baby right now.
That is true. Okay.
And so it's things like that. Like I say, it's not about
Do
the
you
sleep.
call them out on it?
I usually will ask the question because
That's good.
what I know going into it is if they're not both wanting to fix the sleep problem, someone's going to sabotage it. They're not going to agree with the method. And let's figure out, are we not sleeping because there's actually something going on? Or are we buffering this?
It's usually probably with people with newborns, maybe.
It can be, someone with a 2-year-old. Like, it doesn't matter the age. It's really about, like, sometimes people don't want to deal with what's happening within their couple.
Yeah.
And this is a good way to buffer having to sleep with each other.
That makes sense.
The sleep therapist strikes again.
Emphasis on
Also
the
a marriage therapist,
right?
couple therapist, parent therapist.
And so, those are the questions. So, like, and then also for some people, how were they parented? One of the questions I'll ask people is, like, do they have any memories of, like, being locked in their room or any, like, sleep issues for themselves? And so sometimes fears that people have about their child sleeping or not sleeping that they need to be attended to is really us healing our own childhood of, like, not being attended to, people not answering us when we were crying and saying that we needed help, being in a locked room when you were 2 years old and afraid you couldn't get out. And so these are things that become
rooms.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. People be locking their kids.
Yeah.
Right. We're all like, I don't relate, but wow.
People do.
No, my
People do a
mom
lot
let
of
me sleep with her
things.
now. I think I'm just carrying on the codependency because like my mom
I think it's
always let us
it's
sleep with her.
parenting. Like the biggest cultural way we show our culture is how we parent our kids. And so there's certain things that we all kind of know that people do, especially Black parents, like, oh, my mom did that too. So when it comes to sleep, like, it's normal for us to have family beds. It's normal for you to co-sleep. I remember, like, my dad was out of town, I would be in the bed with my mom. I'm 47 years old, if I go home to Houston and my husband's not there, I'm gonna sleep with my mom in her bed.
100%.
Absolutely.
So it's not a bad thing. It's really what, if it feels good to you, and as a couple, if you have a couple, then it's fine.
Yeah.
And you are not taking substances where you should not
Girl,
be. I'm saying that again.
Yes. Your clients.
I mean, do you drink wine, Miss Brand?
I do drink wine. But I'm talking about people be doing some stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
Listen, she's
looking at myself like, well, dang.
No,
No,
people be doing
if
a
you're
lot of stuff.
impaired and you can't
Like,
like,
if you're impaired, you can't be with your 4-month-old
Yes,
in the
I
bed.
agree. I agree.
Or
You know.
So,
maybe when
so
they're not
very
asleep.
directly, because I don't know if we've addressed this, but like cry it out as a method. Just that. What are your thoughts?
So cry it out, like I would say, it's like one big word. It's a suitcase that has to be unpacked. Because what I mean when I say cry it out and what so-and-so means is two different things. Traditional cry it out was like the Ferber method where you did like 5, 10, and 15, and then you went in every 40 minutes, something like that.
That's
There was
what
some
I
kind of
did.
method, like
Yeah.
what he had. And it's basically, that's what's called an extinction method, meaning over time, you're basically moving yourself out of the sleep process. And it does work, but does it work for you emotionally? Like, does it work for your child? Like, people go on both extremes. Like, your baby's not going to get brain damage if you did cry it out, because I see people doing posts like that. They're not going to become mentally ill or get schizophrenia, and I've seen that as
Wait,
well.
that's a thing?
People like go on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Likewise, if you do sleep training or you decide you don't want to do it, your kid's not going to be in prison and they're not going to be, unable to follow directions. Like, there is the middle ground.
Yeah.
And so with Cry It Out, what I tell people that children do need some time to figure out how to get themselves to sleep. And if you are always jumping in, you don't give them the chance to actually practice what it looks like to calm my body down and fall asleep. I don't get to see my progression of that like 25 to 45 minutes, which is about what it takes for people to get in a deep non-REM sleep. And so what usually happens, we hear one noise, we're running in, and basically you've taken them back to square one. They don't get to actually have that ritual of falling asleep. And so I think it has to be flexible. There doesn't have to be times on it like every 7 minutes, 8 minutes. That's just marketing. There is no science behind the time. You got to do what feels good to you. If that's 2 minutes, if that's 4 minutes, consistency is what's most important. Yeah. So I think for some people at certain stages, it can be something that's really important and useful. Like I've had moms come to me like, I almost fell asleep in the car driving my kids. And for me, that's a 911 where your kid has to be sleep trained.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It becomes a danger situation. She's at home by herself. She's living with the kids. And so we do something that's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive sleep training where we're doing like, okay, you're going to wait 2 minutes. You're going to wait 3 minutes before you go in. Yeah. We still are having parents go in. I don't believe you should just shut the door and let them cry. I think they have to know that we're going to attend to them. I think we're teaching them what intimacy and affection and connection means, even from like a newborn stage. And so we still want to have that connection. It doesn't mean you're going to solve them falling asleep. It may mean that you're just patting them and you're shushing them. I know it's hard, but they will get to sleep. Yeah. And that's what I would say. But more importantly, if you do certain things when you come home from the hospital, the goal is never to have to get to the point where you have to cry it out.
Okay. Fair.
That makes
sense.
Okay,
I have another like direct question. I've heard different things about night lights and white noise, right? Night lights might affect their vision long term. And then white noise sometimes is just like not helpful or they become dependent on it like as grown-ups. So I'm just curious your thoughts on those two things.
So white noise is something that I feel can be taken away and added quite easily. I can say this, both my little ones have been on a white noise since they were born and they love it. But if we're without it, they're still going to sleep just fine. Yeah. It's one of those sleep crutches that actually can be pretty easily made. Like if you're at a hotel, you can put on the AM radio and that's white noise. And so it's something that you don't need to have an exact machine. You can turn a fan on, you can have on a HEPA filter. It will do the same thing. And it does block out noise. And so it is helpful, especially if you have a light sleeper. It can be helpful to have something like this, but it's not something that creates dependency, particularly if you're not taking it up to the highest level that it's on. So that's one thing that I would say.
Oh.
With Nightlights,
are you like throwing up the volume?
Yeah, we got the yoga shush and
that one doesn't go so high though.
Okay, but it's loud enough where like I put it on the end of her toddler bed. Well, not anymore now she's in the room with her sister, but that's where I would put it. And so her head is down here, it's right here, but because the door is right there, so it kind of just blocks out like people walking by doing dishes. But it was
yours
one of
is
the
like
highest
the ones
number.
that are made for kids usually are pretty good as far as the
good.
high decibels. But if you have we have just a commercial one that's for anyone. It's not just for kids.
Okay.
And so you could take it up pretty high.
Got you.
And so I would say for some of that, like you can start to like wean them off of the sound where you have it going down, but it's not something they're going to be addicted to in any way. When it comes to Nightlights, if you have a child who needs that and it makes them feel safe, particularly over that age 2 or 3, I would say use them. For an infant, you want the room as dark as possible. Because the darker you have it, the more of that sleepy hormone they're going to make, and they will sleep longer. Like we have seen it. If they use blackout shades or don't use blackout shades, if you have shutters, your child will sleep longer in the morning if it is dark. So you do want that for the children who are under a year of age.
What about music?
So music can be fine to fall asleep with, but I wouldn't have it on once they fall asleep.
All night.
It actually affects that deep non-REM sleep.
That might be the problem.
So I would make
So
it
wait,
go
what
off.
are you playing over there?
So we play.
Andre 3000.
Sometimes Andre, Snow, Allegra. I feel bad because now they don't like her music because they call it their sleepy music because that's like they were going to sleep. It's just so soothing. I'm like,
Yes.
her album.
Well, make it as a
or
bedtime
Disney
routine.
lullabies.
Yeah.
But I'm being honest with you. They are 7 and 8. For the past 7 and 8 years, we turn that music on and the Disney lullaby or whatever, and it usually stays on until it stops. So that I think that
That's
might
probably
be
what's
the
waking them
problem.
up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're saying as soon as pretty much they go to sleep, turn it off.
Yeah, and it could be like, let's say there's a 30 to 45 minute window. Like
Okay.
it's enough for them to get into deep sleep and stay there. So think about when you're driving
Eureka.
in a car and the car stops. Even if you are fully asleep, you automatically wake up when the car stops.
Yes.
Because motion, music, those kinds of things do not allow you to get into that really deep sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's
So
good to
you have
know.
solved your own sleep problem.
Girl, you did. Thank you.
Wait, I have another question. I could do this all day.
I know, right?
First of all, my observation, Brandy, is that you do a really good job. We'll ask like 3 questions and you will answer all 3 of them, which tells me you sleep very well.
I do.
Your mind is working
I'm
great.
a good sleeper.
So back to you sleep training your husband, because I clearly need to be sleep trained as well.
He's gonna be like, why did you tell them that?
And it is going to be a social clip. What can you tell us as grown-ups who struggle to sleep? Me and Ashley in particular. I don't know
So
about you,
I
but-
think
And
even more.
can you please emphasize the importance of sleep?
It is so important. When people tell me, I don't need sleep, we don't need sleep, my kid doesn't need sleep,
I'll sleep when I'm
everybody needs
dead.
sleep. Like we think about now, particularly because we have our phones, sleep is much more important because we're not getting the exercise in our brains that we used to. And so we are going to see in our generation, for anyone who's over 30, 40, a much earlier onset of people getting dementia and Alzheimer's and these kinds of issues. The only time that your brain cleans itself is when you're sleeping. And so there's these glial cells that basically is all the junk that accumulates in your brain. What happens when you're sleeping is they get kind of like ushered out. And so not only are we like not remembering things, we're using our cell phones for everything. So we're not getting that actual mental memory. We're also not sleeping enough, which can create that in longer life.
100%. Yeah.
And so learn the other language, do the crossword puzzles, but also sleep. You have to sleep, and it doesn't matter when you sleep. So people think it has to be a certain time.
Okay.
So
You
like
could be
sleep
a
when the
night
baby
person.
sleep when the baby sleeps is like a good theory for you. You
It
like
is,
that?
but is it realistic for most people if you are also having to do the laundry and do the
Right.
dishes?
No.
Like we don't have the kind of support in the U.S. to be telling people to do that. So I try not to say that unless people have the actual support to be able to do that. You probably saw it, but I spent half my time in France, and they do
parles
have
français?
un petit peu.
Ah, très bien.
Oui.
And so
Merci.
people get these supports. They have time off. You have people supporting you. And so it makes sense to kind of give people this kind of, sleep when the
Right.
baby sleeps. But if you have to do dishes and cook for your child and do the things, you're going to get that done while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
But we do need to do that, particularly in those 40 days after birth, because that's when your body is trying to heal itself. Again, when we sleep, we create, the kinds of hormonal things that need to happen in our bodies to heal, to clean,
Regenerate, yeah.
to regenerate. And what ends up happening is that most of us are chronically underslept. And so we all need to sleep. It's important. It's for your brain.
We are well past the
for
40 days.
women, particularly talking about like menopause, perimenopause,
But that-
all this gets affected by sleep.
Yes, they all get affected by sleep.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time, how we wake it up in the middle of the night. This 3 o'clock anxiety, night sweats, what in the world, frozen shoulder. I'm like, everything is working
What is
against our sleep.
frozen
I'm just trying to
shoulder, child?
Oh, girl, I had my first episode of frozen shoulder the other night. It was terrifying.
What is that? Oh my
I thought I
goodness.
felt paralyzed in the arm that I was not sleeping on. That's a whole other episode. We'll talk about that after. But
Brand.
I want to say this because, as a woman in her early 40s, I've really been learning about the importance of how sleep is the number one thing that you can do for your health.
Yeah.
Sleep
Like,
is
yeah.
the top. Like if you talk to any doctor, getting sleep will solve so many issues. Particularly for those of us who are over 40, and hormones play a factor in this.
Yes.
And so you might have your sleep affected by things that are happening internally already. So we don't want to exacerbate that. Like I tend to be a night owl. Like I like going to bed late. I like the quiet of the house and like doing my thing. But that also means that I need to like figure out another time to get that sleep.
What time do you go to sleep?
Usually I go to sleep like around midnight.
And what time do you wake up?
I'll usually go up at 7 or 8,
Oh.
but I'll also take a nap.
In the day.
I take a nap,
honey?
like probably a couple times a week.
You are living a life of
Yeah,
luxury.
me and my husband will be like, okay, after lunch, where you go? I'm gonna be in the sofa. You gonna be which place you gonna be? Because I want to be the opposite, and we're gonna take this little nap for an hour before we pick up the kids.
For you.
Yeah, so we'll usually take a nap from
I
like
think
3 to
naps
4.
are so important. I do.
And so I do get to
can't.
regenerate.
I only nap when I'm pregnant. There is something wrong with my body. It does not.
Girl, I went over to Ashley's house the other day and took a nap.
She did, and I was
If I feel comfortable, I will nap. I'm out.
Napping is so good for you.
love
I'm from
a
the
nap.
South, so we nap. So
I love a nap.
Shit,
Listen,
I'm from
I
the
am
South
too.
Side.
I like to nap.
Yeah, we nap. And so I think that is super helpful. It's like, doesn't matter the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it also, like, if I needed to sleep in, my husband can do the morning thing. He do
Yes,
the thing,
girl.
And I can sleep in.
That's a good man today.
So if I want to go to bed at like 2 a.m. because I'm working on stuff, I know that, okay, I can sleep in until 8 or 9 if I needed to, because he can take up the slack and do the morning thing with the kids, and I could sleep in.
You have a good life.
Okay, I have 1,000 more questions. The one thing that I have to ask, well, one is that I think I would love for you to like share any resources that you can share with our audience about how they can learn about sleep training, and then also just like even if you can just quickly say like, what does that process look like for you as a professional? Like when when a client calls you and says, "Sis, I need help." What is that? What does that process look like for you, so people can know if it's something that they need or can handle?
So usually people will call or they'll email, usually in crisis, like I haven't slept in 10,000 years. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And so I would get on the phone and kind of chat like how we're chatting and be like, okay, what about this? And what about that? And sometimes I'll tell them like, you know what? You don't actually have a sleep problem. You need to do this. Like, you don't need to pay me for me to tell you this.
Do you go into the home?
I do. I
Okay.
do go into the home sometimes. I would say most nowadays I'm probably doing virtual because my schedule is pretty packed. I do go into the home. I also do overnights with some families who are just like, we need to get this right like now. Can you come and do this for a couple of weeks? And so I do an intake of like figuring out like letting people understand that not everything is wrong. People come to me with this idea that they're doing everything wrong or their kid isn't doing X. They're going to this baby class.
Guilt,
they told them they should be
shame,
doing this.
comparison.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of what they're saying. It's just like you seem like you're really enjoying this. It's actually helping you. Like it's helping you to enjoy motherhood. If that's the case, I don't want you to fix this, but it sounds like this part isn't working. So I want people to understand sleep can be fluid. You don't have to have everything the way that Susie, the teacher, said it has to be. It could be that you have a later bedtime than everyone else, but your kid's still sleeping 10 hours. It could be that your kid falls asleep on their own, but they're coming into bed with you at 2 a.m. And so my job is really to figure out for people what is their sleep goal and not what they've been told is the norm. And so a lot of what I do is normalizing that we all sleep differently. And it's okay as a family if something works for you. If your husband getting home till 8 p.m., your kid doesn't have to go to bed at 7.
Right.
If that means that dad's never going to see them.
Right. Exactly.
And so we help people to kind of figure out what that looks like. Once they do that, we have a meeting. We go step through step on like how we're going to fix this problem, what I kind of see should be adjusted, what's going really well. And then they're with me basically for a month, texting, talking, et cetera, until we get them a baby that's sleeping tonight or a toddler that's sleeping.
And how do they find you? Like, what's a website? What's a resource? Like, where do people go on Google?
The Cradle Company, thecradlecompany.com. It is my postpartum business. We've been open since 2008. And so we do lots of other things, but sleep is one of those integral things, whether it's in home or me doing a sleep consult with people to help them fix it for themselves. And sometimes we're going in and doing it for them as well. They also can find me on Instagram. It's Brandi_Jordan official. And that's where I usually will post things about sleep, tips and things like that. And then I have my podcast, Dear Doula, which there's a lot of episodes on sleep.
Spell Brandy because there's a lot
Brandy
of
with
different
an
ways.
I.
There you go.
Well, I always forget to say it because it's the right way to spell it. So I always forget to.
Shots fired. Pew pew.
I always forget. It's Brandy with an I. Thank you
Okay.
for that.
Well, thank you so much, Brandy. This
You're
has
so
been
welcome.
amazing.
Yes.
An amazing episode.
I feel healed, child. I'm going to go home and get it all well together.
See, I'm telling you, it saves marriages. It heals people's childhoods.
Yes.
The long and short of it is, bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job.
I love it.
Okay, well, thank you, Brandy, for being in the den with us. Remember, those listening and watching, if you have questions for the mamas, email us at podcasts
With an S.
at blacklove.com or DM us on IG at the Mama's Den podcast. And for all things Mama's Den, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a rating and review. And for more Black Love stories, go to blacklove.com. We'll see you next Monday.
Happy sleeping.